And I want to welcome you once again to the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. We do this show every week and beam it across America on various podcast channels. And our reason for doing this is to share the ways that you can take your business and your personal life to a higher level. You know, you started that business one day because you had a dream. And what we like to do in one of our taglines at CVC is we help turn our customers' business dreams into their business realities because your business exists to give you what you're looking for in your personal life. Now, on this podcast over the last couple of months, I've had the pleasure of having very big rock stars from the world of speaking. We have had people on here like Larry Winget, Tom Ziegler. We've had Eleanor out of the Dirty Jobs segment. We've had Scott McCain. We've had Damian Mason. He is a reinvention expert. We've had Joe Crusario, who is a expert in sales out of the plumbing and HVAC avenues of blue collar work. But today, I have a very, very special guest today. And the reason he is special is because he's special to me and he's special to a lot of people because he's a guy that basically he's a difference maker. He changes lives. I met this guy back in the 1980s or 90s. I don't really know when. And we kind of developed a friendship and a bond back in those days because he was launching a product and taking it to market. And like many of you, and we're going to talk about this some today, some of the challenges he went through in order to take this. Very special person to me. His name is John Meredith. So, John, are you out there with me today, ready to talk to our listeners a little bit?
I am. Thank you, Jerry. That's to even be mentioned in the same light of the list you had earlier was quite an honor, I'll tell you.
Well, John, I tell you something. Like I said, I know a lot of people that are in the coaching world and the speaking world, and they're known motivators. But to be honest with you, that's one of you. That's what you are too. When I look at the industry we both come up, which is a chimney and the venting industry, I look at it, and there's just a few people that are out there that have really made a difference. You and I both know what we think of Sooty Bob and other people, but John, you're one of those special people. So what you've got to share, I think, is going to be very special. So you ready to roll, brother?
I'm ready to go, man.
Okay.
Appreciate that, Jerry.
So here's my first question for you, John. Many years ago, may seem like decades ago, and it may seem like yesterday, you were a chimney sweep. I think you were even a fireman, if I remember correctly. But you came up with an idea and a product to take to market that was a water repellent, a waterproofing system for masonry. So here's what I want to know from you. Whenever you decided to embark on this, what was the biggest challenges you faced in getting your company off the ground back in those days?
Yeah, well, we during the course of my chimney sweeping, I noticed there was a lot of issues with masonry chimneys, and then I would even recommend to my customers that they have a mason come back and fix them, and he kind of put the same problems back on them that caused them to fail. And I was lucky enough to have a fire chief let me put a phone in my fire station, so just for my own personal use. And so this is back before fax machines and the internet. So the best tool was the telephone and of course the typewriter, I guess, but which was a little slow. But so I spent a lot of time doing research on from calling experts in chimneys, or experts mostly in masonry and water repellents and things like that. And I discovered a technology. It was kind of cool. It was the government evidently had funded some water repellent research. Evidently, when we were going into Vietnam, they were playing around with bulletproof vests, and when these vests would get wet in the jungle, the bullets would penetrate. So the government funded some research to come up with some water repellents that could be used to prevent the vests in the jungle from getting wet. So I was lucky enough to kind of network into the guy who kind of developed this technology that came out of this government funding. So, and I paid for some research and development time to have that made into a product, which we still make today, and it's still one of our great products. It's kind of like Gore-Tex for masonry, and it's kind of an amazing product. It's got like, I don't know, last time I looked at it, over 4,000 reviews and 4.5 stars on the internet. So I mean, it's an amazing product. But yeah, going from, so what I did was I paid for some research and development time. kind of tied up the technology, got an exclusive to market it in for certain markets, and then tried to launch a business. It's kind of a long-winded answer to the question, but I just want to give you a little bit of background. So one of the challenges, obviously, is going from being a chimney sweep to a credible manufacturer. And there was a lot of challenges. So I spent a couple of years doing the research, getting everything ready. I'll never forget my first trade show was at the Indiana Chimney Sweep Guild. Back then, every state guild had its own trade show, and it was up in South Bend. It was I'll never forget this. It was the hottest day of the year on record in South Bend. It was 105 degrees, and it was warmer. And I think Juneau, Alaska was up to 106 or something like that. It was extremely hot. But I came back with orders, and I said, oh, no, what do I do now? I'm not a manufacturer. I didn't know how to fill the orders. And I was like, oh, my gosh, you guys, I was so hard focused on getting to the packaging and, doing all the research and getting all the marketing together and everything and getting the trade show booth together and getting to this trade show. And then I actually, got orders, and I came back, and I didn't know how to fill them. So it was kind of like I had a big learning curve. But in fact, at that time, I thought, what am I doing? I don't have any business doing this. And, my dad kind of got in my grill and said, you can do this. And so I think along the way, we all need someone kind of in our grill saying, hey, you can do this, because we all have a lot of challenges in our lives. And we need someone who we respect that says, yes, you can do this. Because I think, in almost all cases, lesser men have overcome greater challenges than we each face. So I think that's, and then also then seeing, as problems come up, instead of just, throwing your hands up, but really looking deep for the opportunities in every problem. I think staying optimistic and just when you get a roadblock, you can't go under it, go over it. If you can't go over it, go around it. And just keep looking for the opportunities and all the challenges that you face. And I think those are the things that kept me going.
And John, that story you just told me, it brought back memories of my own. When Cheryl and I started IBD Outdoor Rooms, which at one time it was Islands by Design, we actually went to a trade show in Atlanta. It was the Atlanta Flower Show. And a couple guys just told us, hey, bring some product in here. We think you got a product. And all of a sudden, we got an interesting product, and we ain't got no idea how to manufacture this stuff. And she and I drove back from Atlanta, Georgia, and actually came up with the name, which was Islands by Design. And we came up with the model numbers sitting in a car driving back from Atlanta, Georgia, and came up with the model numbers. And it's like we developed some systems, such as we named a straight island a Santa Fe because the first word was an S. An L-shaped island was a Lexington, and a tri-shaped island, that was a Trenton, and a circular island, that was a Concord because it started with a C. And if it went in the corner, we called it a Venetian because it started with a V. And it's amazing, like you say, you got this idea and you take it to market, and all of a sudden people get ready to buy it. It's like, okay, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? So I can sympathize with that. But it was also probably challenging just trying to fund a business in those days. I don't think you were a rich kid or anything, so funding a business had to be somewhat difficult to get started.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I invested. Well, I sold my chimney sweep company, put everything into that, but I had a little bit of retirement and savings, and I put it in there, and then I was able to borrow $25,000 from two relatives, and then that was kind of the seed capital I used. I did keep my chimney sweep business for a couple of years after we started the manufacturing company because I needed the income, and then eventually I got too busy with the manufacturing, had to let it go, and we sold it. But yeah, so it is extremely challenging to get the seed capital for something like that for sure.
Yeah, well,
so we had $60,000 for startup monies, and of course I didn't take a salary for a couple of years, so things were kind of lean, that's for sure.
Yep, and you worked hard, John. That was it. You dedicated yourself to it. But listen, let's come up with some things that today in this, that how we can help some people we know, because some of my clients are also your customers. We deal with a lot of the same people. And here's what's happening. As people are going out here, what do you see the major challenges of your customer base in the chimney and venting industry? What's the major challenges that you feel that the people that are selling your product to homeowners, what are they facing in order to move their businesses forward in the coming years, over the next decade? What do you see are their major roadblocks and the challenges that are out there, John?
Well, I may see them a little differently than most people because I don't look more technical. I tend to look a little more deeply into what I call the challenges that prevent us from kind of getting what we what we want in life. I think are what I call the gales, and mean by that I mean they're gremlin messages where we maybe believed something about ourselves is not really true. Like I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, or some kind of essentially a lie, or maybe it's an interpretation, maybe, or opinion or judgment that we've made about, a past experience we've had that we believe to be true. Kind of sometimes the stories that we make up. Sometimes it's assumptions that we make, like, if something happened in the past, it's going to happen it's going to happen again, and that's not always the case. Or sometimes it's just we're limited by our own beliefs, right? So, something we accept about life, about ourselves, that limits us in some way. So, for example, like maybe I don't have enough time to accomplish my goals, or I'm not, there's something limiting me. So I think just thinking differently. If you want to change the future, you got to disrupt the present, right? So I think the biggest challenge that any business owner faces is their own, their own stinking thinking, if you will, to use a Zig Ziglar term. And so, by challenging some of these things that we believed about ourselves in the past, we can get a different perspective on things. And, to change your actions, you need to change your thoughts, which affect your emotions or your feelings, and then that'll change your actions. So by just thinking through some of these things and realizing that these things aren't really, they're just like paper tigers that have been holding us back. But once we kind of identify those things, and that's what I try to do as a leadership coach, is kind of get in somebody's head, get in their grill a little bit, and find out, what their inner critics are telling them, because that's what's keeping them from really pushing forward, in my opinion.
When you say the inner critics, you're talking about what's inside their heads, or you're talking about their surroundings?
Yeah, just what's inside their own heads. Like for instance, I never graduated from college, so I always felt like I'm not smart enough.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like everybody else was smarter than me, because so that caused me to kind of be a voracious reader, and caused me to feel like everybody else is ahead of me, so I gotta work hard to catch up. And that's and I found later on in life that wasn't really true. I'm certainly not a genius, but I'm not an idiot either. And so those kind of things that you kind of believe, those kind of things, those messages can hold us back from really walking in whatever purpose and destiny that we were put on the planet to walk in, I think. I think go ahead, I'm sorry.
I said, and I think you're dead on the money there with your thinking. What you've got to do is be able to self-empower yourself and face these challenges, because we all face challenges all the time. You do, I do, and you've just got to get up, and the challenge has got to become your adrenaline, if you understand what I'm saying. The challenge also, it just feeds your adrenaline to succeed. That's the difference in winners and losers, and that's what every human being has within them. They've just got to go for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I agree.
Yeah. John, about several weeks ago, you were on Taylor and Carter's podcast, Blue Collar Proud, and I listened to that day, and you made a very, very profound statement. In fact, I actually made a Facebook post out of it, because I thought it was that profound. And this was all about leadership. And you said something that day that I think a lot of people would benefit them to hear, and it's kind of the way that I'm trying to live my life, which is leadership means we turn it into a win-win for every party. We turn it into it's where we all win. And that came from your training in the world of coaching that you're doing. We're going to address in a minute. But tell me more about your belief in that win-win for all and where that is the secret of a true leader.
So it's actually I came up with a little bit of a guideline to kind of help people make better decisions. But leadership is one of those things. It's a little bit like nailing jello to the wall. You don't really know what it is. Nobody really knows how to teach it. Essentially, it's just learning how to lead yourself and others and influence yourself and others in a positive direction. So, but there's not a real, there's no one formula out there for it, right? There's different types of leaders, different types of leadership styles, and there's no really right or wrong answer. But I think one of the things that, that I've learned through my training, and it's just something you always, you try to practice, but if you can suspend, so if you ask yourself, if something comes up, for example, and you ask yourself, what assumptions am I making? And then you kind of suspend judgment, and then, ask, how else might you think about this? And then maybe ask, what does the other person think, feel, or want? And then you might ask, how can I turn this into a win-win? And then kind of focus on looking for solutions. So, the type of leader, I think is probably one of the more effective leaders for businesses, and I think families too, is what I, kind of call the optimist leader, which is the, where you really try to look for a win-win in every situation. So now that doesn't work in every situation, because sometimes as a leader, you need to win and you really don't care if the other person wins. For example, if there's a safety issue at the plant, and I say, hey, this is going to stop, or you're going to be gone.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get hurt. So that's a conscious choice I'm making to change leadership styles, right? I don't go in there and try to negotiate, whether or not they should be wearing their safety glasses or not. There's certain things that are absolute, but if there's some objectivity in there, I find that I make much better decisions when I suspend judgment and keep an open mind and really look for a win-win. And oftentimes I come up with better decisions in trying to do that. Trying to understand others before being understood. That's one of the Covey things, right? And then, just recognizing each person as maybe having unique gifts and abilities, and really trying hard to to find that area where we can both win. Find the opportunities in all the challenges that we face, and really try not to take things too personally, and just don't let try to keep our. I'm driven a lot by my need to care for other people, if that makes any sense. I call it the Mother Teresa syndrome. So sometimes, I view my success as I win when you win, and that that's going to be that's not a lot of people come from. So it's easy to get if you put your heart out there like that, sometimes it gets trampled on by employees or customers or friends or whatever. But so I'm by learning to maybe not engage that much emotionally, and just becoming more aware of trying to find a space where you both can find that win-win. I find that everybody's happier. My employees are much happier. My customers are happier, and we find that I think our business thrives and is successful under that style of leadership. Most businesses, a lot of businesses are run by confrontation and anger. You're going to do this, it's kind of like the drill sergeant approach, and that's where a lot of businesses are today, and that approach, especially, we've talked a lot about leading millennials, just doesn't really work anymore. And so you've got to have a much, but you get much better results when you really try to consider the needs of others and try to find areas where you can both find wins.
Yeah.
I don't know, does that make any sense? Does that sound like a bunch of...
No, it makes perfect sense. When we did our joint presentation this year at the event we did in Aileron earlier this year, that was kind of the endearing part of that, was building the culture and how you communicate. And I spoke a lot on the different generations, and you spoke a lot on how your leadership powers and leadership, your skills as a leader. That's what you delved into. And I think we did a bang up program. I did 2 last year, one here in Concord. But yeah, learning the different generations and how to speak to them. Yeah, it's definitely something that a leader has to take into play, because the way it's done, it's not the same anymore. So that leads me into my next question, John. You are the person who inspired me into my second career as a coach. And that goes to a breakfast you and I had back in 2010, Hartford, Connecticut, in a hotel restaurant. But then we've talked over the years, and we've cried together and everything else. And hey, we're going to get through this without either one of us crying this time. But we are, it's going to happen. Okay. So, but you shared with me a while back that you were now engaged in going into coaching yourself. And but from a couple different things, it was something I think you have a God-given talent for, to be honest with you. You have the right personality for it, and you have a way of leading people to where they can open their eyes. That's been one of your endearing qualities, John. So, what was it that drove you to do this? Because I know you're doing this in the hope you're going to be able to assist other people. And what I know about John Meredith, I don't think John Meredith sometimes understands the personality that you have or the power you have to influence, John. I really don't think you understand how deep that is with so many people and how you have influenced so many. So kind of tell me where you're going to go with this coaching thing, John.
So, yeah, thank you, Jerry. Especially for your kind words. I really appreciate that. It's very kind of you. I really feel like, one of my philosophy in life is, life is about who you loved, who loved you, and what you do to help others along the way. And, I really felt like, I got engaged in Aileron. We talked a little bit about this. In fact, that's where we did our one program. And I was inspired by a friend of mine who started Aileron. His name's Clay Mateel. He kind of does the same thing on a macro scale, and I kind of do it on a micro scale. But my heart is to build into other people, to see them walking in whatever purpose and destiny that they can walk in, and kind of following their heart's desires and using their gifts and talents. And so, I wanted to gain some skills in and around drawing that out for people, and so that's why I did the same leadership training that the Aileron business advisors go through, and so that was about a year-long program that I went through with them, and it gave me some tools. I think I was just looking for more tools. One of the things I really have a heart to do is to build into my employees, my customers on many different levels. So, and my vendors, and just everybody bump up against. And so, I just wanted to gain some tools in and around that. So that was kind of my motivation for that. And if I ever, retired or did something different here, I would probably, do more of it. So it would, it was kind of like having something to run to if I ever decided to do something else. So right now I do, I just coach a few people. I have a few clients who are not in this industry actually, but just business owners that are trying to get their businesses off the ground, or maybe they've been, maybe struggling with some areas a little bit, and just and they've both been pretty successful. And so basically, it's just taking the way I view coaching is I like to take high functioning people and turn them into really just top performers in whatever mountain that they're on, in whatever, business that they're in, to try to, kind of grow it to the next level. And so that's kind of my hard focus. And I certainly don't have all the gifts and talents to coach them to do that, but I do have a pretty deep Rolodex. So if it's, so I view myself as kind of like a general practitioner. If I need to send somebody to a specialist, I know where to send them, because I've done a lot of networking over the years, and I think, this guy can help you with that, So that's kind of where my role, I think, and that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. But I thought about doing some group coaching online or something like that. But it's what I'm doing is mostly just working, between the ears with helping guys really define what they want to do, what they want out of life, and what they and develop their vision, their mission, and their core values. Is a big focus of mine. Because once you kind of figure out what you're about, then that's the age-old question, right? Trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't really are never really settled in that question. So once you become settled in that, and you kind of know why you were put on the planet, life gets a lot easier, because then you don't have to spend all that energy figuring out what you're trying to be, what you want to become. I mean, what you've been put on the planet to do. And so once you kind of settle into that, you gain up a lot of bandwidth to really move forward. And so, but that can be difficult sometimes for us as men, especially, to kind of figure out, especially in your case, you had to kind of reinvent yourself, and so, you wrote a great book about that and shared a lot of personal pain. And, that's one of the things. Our mess kind of becomes our message, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what, I've always found that I learn so much more from my failures than I do my successes. So while you don't want to relive your failures, you're thankful for them, because you learn so much in them. And that's really what makes us who we are and makes us valuable to other people, because of our failure.
Yeah.
If everything was always honky-dory and you were just knocking out of the park every day, be a pretty boring person, and you really wouldn't have any value to a lot of people, because nobody's ever experienced that before. Most of us have a lot of stuff that we've had to overcome and dealt with, and challenges.
That's it. Failure is a high octane fuel. Failure,
Yeah.
and the bad thing is sometimes, and that's what I found out since I've been in the coaching world, and I have mingled and networked and mixed with a lot of high level coaches, is the amount of failure is unreal. But at the same time, the strength this has given people is also unreal. And you just learn how to face things. But John, I'll tell you something. You said something a while ago. You've got the talent to do it, my friend. I've got a lot of confidence in you. Like I ever told you, you ever decide to go into coaching, I know a coaching company that's ready to put you on staff at any point, okay?
So, well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. I really do.
So anyway, yeah. So I want you to reach real deep, John. Here, I want you to reach down, and I know you can do this. But what's the closing thoughts? What's deep in your heart? What do you want to share? Because John, this is a group of people that you can truly inspire. So we're sitting here. The show's going to air between Christmas and New Year's. Give me what John's thoughts are to close out 2017 and how we really move to that higher level in 2018. What's John Meredith's prescription for that?
Well, I think, I kind of go back to, one of my life philosophy, I guess. But, the best definition of success I've heard was from Maya Angelou, and she just simply said, success is liking who you were, what you did, and how you did it. And I think, I think that's where we all, so it's not about, money, it's not about, whatever. It's just about, I think it comes down to those three things. And, I've got 6 grandkids now, so I one of my measures of success these days is how many games of Chutes and Ladders do I get to play? How many games of Hi-Ho Cherry-O and Pie Face, with my 5 and 6-year-old grandkids. That if I get to do that 2 or 3 times a week, my life, it seems to go a lot smoother. But I grew up kind of racing sailboats, and one of my favorite quotes is a anonymous quote. If you want to be happy, put your effort into controlling the sail, not the wind. Because if you enjoy the journey in the process, and not get a lot of energy focused on the problems or becoming a victim, but you learn from the pain. Like I said earlier, it's what makes us valuable to others. So, then I think it frees up a lot of bandwidth for us to help those. I really believe that what you put behind you, you put in front of you. So, one of the things I love about, if you need grace, give grace. If you need help, give help. I think those things release all those things that we need when we give out the things that we actually need. It sends, when we send stuff up river, there's more coming downstream. But if we kind of bottle it up, then we don't really receive the tools that we need to really become the success that I think we're all intended to become. So I think that if I was going to reach deep and share something with someone, it would be to help others and do whatever you need, give out to others, because that'll free it up for it to come to you. And that's kind of my deep life philosophy, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like I like the words that Ziglar shared. He said, if you help enough people get what they want, they'll help you get what you want. And John, that's what you've done for a lot of people. And I think that's why a lot of the goodness comes to you, because of all the good you've done for other human beings in your life.
Well, thank you, my friend. It's an honor to be on your program and to be your friend. I appreciate you dearly.
Well, looking forward to a couple weeks. I will be seeing you at Aileron in just a few weeks. We're going to be doing another Heat Shield Summit. It's been a real honor and a privilege to be able to speak at every one of those since we started them some years ago. And I know that was a challenging thing for you when we first talked about that. Would anybody come? And now it's turned into one of the biggest business building events, and and you hold it every other year. So it's really great what you do, because it's how you put, you don't do that to make money. In fact, I know that you lose money every single year on that thing. You have to invest into it. But what you're helping people with is unreal. So, John, I want to thank you for being my guest today. Thank you for sharing with these people. And thanks for being a mentor and a friend to me, okay?
It's an honor, my friend. I really appreciate you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, we've been through hard times, John, and like I said, we've been able for a long time. I think that you and I have both been people we can rely on each other, someone just talk to, and sometimes just call up and say, "Hey, man, is everything okay? You doing okay?" I mean, that's the kind of friendship we have, and that it's something that is sacred, my friend.
I appreciate that. Steel sharpens steel, so we need each other, right? I appreciate it, brother.
So, John, go ahead.
Thanks. Have a Merry Christmas and a great New Year. I'm looking forward to all life has in store and the challenges that we can overcome next year.
That's all our hope, man. That's all our hope. Peace, harmony, and that we all move forward, and we all, it's kind of like my tagline. We want you to live your dreams, and that's what it's all about. So, John and I are going to be out of here. We thank you for joining us this week on the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. We bring this to you each and every week. It's broadcast through Spreaker. It's broadcast through iTunes and also through SoundCloud. It's sponsored by CVC Coaching. If we can help you reach your business dreams, help you turn your business dreams into your business realities, then give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. We want to help you get there with our educational program, our educational outreach, our coaching services, and our consulting services. We could be a resource to you. So just give us a call if we can ever talk. And with that, I'll talk to you next time. And I appreciate you tuning in as always, because it's truly an honor and it's a privilege and it's a pleasure to be able to share our message with you in this manner. Talk to you next time, and thanks for joining us.